Hey there. So a common question I get probably 3-4 times a month is, Dr. J, I notice your metabolism testing prices are a bit higher than some of your local competitors in the area. I'm just kind of trying to figure out, why that is and why you're charging more. I just conducted a test this morning that I think really highlights the reason why I charge a little bit more, and also the benefits that you as a consumer can get based on shopping around and knowing what your goals are, and looking at the information that you're going to be gathering from wherever you get tested to make sure that the information is going to be usable for you and actually allow you to make some changes. So I have on my screen here a local Vo2max testing place, and I have nothing negative to say about them. I just really am making this so that you as a consumer can be a little bit more educated in your decision of where you choose to get tested and who's doing this, because it's super important. This is your health we're talking about. So, on the surface here, they're showing you the unit. They're using a Core CardioFit, I believe. I'm very familiar with Core. I've used them for years. I have one sitting here. I don't use it anymore, but I certainly am super familiar with it, and I have nothing negative to say about the unit. One thing to understand, though, is that this particular unit is made for simplicity, to make it easy for a facility to bring it in and test somebody and give the customer some basic information. If you scroll down here, they do RMR and Vo2max testing. First let me show you the pricing. So if I want to book a test here, just so you have a roadmap, you can see here that you can get a Vo2max and RMR test here for $285. Pretty good price. If I go over to my website, doing an RMR and Vo2max test is going to cost you, with our discount, $440. So I charge about 35% more than they do. But I want to let you see what you're getting at both locations for your money. So let's go back here, and I want to look at a sample test. And I'm assuming, if you're getting an RMR test, you're probably interested in knowing your calories that you require per day. Also check and see whether your metabolism is damaged at all. One of the things that I know the Core units don't supply you with is whether or not you're burning fat well or not. It's part of the reason I stopped using it. They don't have an RMR sample test on here, but they do have a sample Vo2max test. And I just want to walk you through this. It's a 4-page report. Their first page here has some information. And as you're looking at this, think about, what would you do with this information and if I gave it to you today? So they have your incline, your speed, your heart rate, and your RER. Most people I know don't even know what an RER is, respiratory exchange ratio. But you get this piece of paper with this page showing you kind of where your fat's crossing over and where your carbs are coming up as you're exercising. The average person is not going to be able to do too much with this page. So their second page is effective fat burn, and this is certainly some valuable information. It's showing you, as you're progressing through the workout, your fat calories versus your carb calories. So, you can pick an area that you want to focus on and exercise. If your goal is to burn a lot of fat, you could do that with the data from this page. Their third page is giving you information on your VO2. So, of course, you want to know your VO2max, your heart rate, your VCO2, your carbohydrate, But again, you get this graph, and what do you do with it? Now, there's a little area over here where your trainer can fill in some information, so they could say, hey, you know, your VO2 looks good here, your heart rate looks good here, etc. And then finally, you get this stage data, where again, the trainer can add some explanation of analysis. And you're getting a lot of information here that I'm very familiar with, but it's just not really in a format that's very usable for the average consumer. So I want to show you the report I generate for a Vo2max test. Remember, this one's 4 pages. So here is a sample Vo2max test. This was conducted today, and it's 27 pages, 28 pages. And, you know, as you recall what you got, the information you got from the other test, I'm going to be giving you information on your cardiovascular system, on your cellular system, on your lung and respiratory system, as well as some other data on mental status and posture in terms of how your breathing is affecting your posture and how your breathing is affecting blood flow to the brain. These are all the metrics that you get with a test that I utilize. So what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 11, 12 metrics, depending on your goals. And each one of these is comparing you to average so that you can see, number one, how you stand in general for your age, height, weight, and sex. So you can see this individual is in really good shape. They're getting, excellent and good marks on pretty much everything, right? And there's some information about their cardiovascular system, their aerobic capacity. That's basically their Vo2max. Their cardiovascular fitness, that's a component of Vo2max, as well as information in terms of as their heart rate's increasing, are they actually getting more oxygen? That's called VO2 pulse. How well they perform at high intensities, their recovery capacity, their fat burning efficiency when exercising, their movement economy with exercising, their metabolic rate, so an assessment of their metabolism in terms of how they're turning calories into energy for work. So they're here for an RMR test where they're just laying down. They get an assessment of their metabolic rate when not moving. This gives you an assessment of your metabolic rate when you are moving. Then a lot of breathing information, which is ignored at a lot of facilities, unfortunately, even though it's one of the components of your overall VO2max, right? Like, you're exercising, you need to pump blood and you need to breathe, yet no one says anything about the breathing. So here we assess your respiratory capacity. So how much lung capacity do you have when you're exercising, and also your capability of using it, how strong your lungs are, expiratory power, breathing and cognition. How is blood flow, your breathing affecting blood flow to the brain? Are you hyperventilating and making poor decisions while exercising because you're shunting blood away from the brain due to hyperventilation? Breathing instability and the coordination of your breathing. So your breathing, you're going to have a certain volume that you're using and also a certain respiration rate. Both will be increasing as the exercise intensity increases. But believe it or not, a lot of people don't know how to coordinate those two. And I'm going to show you an example in a second. Okay, so number one, we give you an assessment, just in general, an overview of how you stand on all of these metrics. The report also, I'm going to go down here, gives you an estimate of how your biological age is impacted versus your chronological age due to your conditioning level. You can see for this individual, they're in such good shape, it's taking 12 years. They're going from 49 to a fitness level of a 37-year-old. Great information. Now, each of those metrics I just showed you, our report shows you information on what it is, how it's measured, things you can do about it in terms of exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle for all the metrics. So I'm not going to go through each one. I'm just going to kind of breeze through those so you can see what else you get with one of our reports. Keep on going here. There's a lot of information. Okay, then we take your test and we look at, based on the things that have shown up, limitations that may have shown up, how should you allocate your time in terms of any exercise you're going to be doing here. You can see here that the report and the software does an allocation of resistance training, and then also 2 types of cardio, basic steady state cardio in zone 2, and interval training in depending on your issues, zone 3 through zone 5. So you can see for this individual, there's a high emphasis on resistance training because of the lower metabolic score. And as you saw on the overview, on the surface, they're in great condition, right? So the algorithm is saying, hey, spend a little bit more time with resistance training. Now, one of the things you don't see here is anything about respiration. That's where I come in. Once I've tested you, I look over your information. I look at how you're breathing during the test, and then I assign respiratory training as well. So there's a 4th thing that I customize based on your testing here in the facility. And then I'll also mention when I do an RMR test and a Vo2max test, I end up having to do a 3rd test because there's no point to me putting you on a treadmill and having you exercise and then looking at your breathing and looking at the volumes when you're exercising if I don't have a baseline of your lung volumes and lung strength when you're not exercising. So I do a spirometry test on top of the other 2 tests to make that assessment. So then I can look and compare and say, hey, you know, your lung volume that you have in terms of capacity are 5 liters, but when you're exercising, you're only using 3. We need to do something about it. And then I assign you some specific training to work on that. Okay, let's keep moving through here. Now, not only do we tell you how to allocate your time in terms of the different types of exercise, but we also tell you the type of resistance training to do. Should you be doing strength training? Should you be doing hypertrophy training with your strength training? Should you be doing endurance training with your resistance training? So we let you know that. Same with your intervals, what type of intervals you should be doing. Again, this is just your zone 2. But we're going to get to that because we give you that too. We give you a description of all the different types of intervals, types of resistance training. And then, of course, which a lot of people are here just to get their zones. And of course, we're going to give those to you. So on this sheet, you can see here that we have the specific zones for this individual, zones 1 through 5. You have not only your heart rates for those zones, but also in this case, we have speed on the treadmill and watts as well. And then we give an explanation of each zone and what the benefits are, because you're going to get different benefits in each zone. And there's going to be things you need and things you don't need. There's no point if you're a poor fat burner to be spending all your time up in zone 4 and 5, well, at least zone 4, when zone 2 is the zone that's going to improve your fat burning efficiency, as will zone 5. But you need to know that kind of information. So you get all your zones. Then we give you your fuel consumption. So not only do you know your zones, but you know within those zones what you're burning. So you can see here for this person in zone 4, they're burning 89% carbs, 11% fat. They have their zone is a range, so we give you the average that you're burning in that zone, and then also if you are at the lower end and at the higher end. So this comes into play when you're trying to track your calories, or at least maybe just maintain. And if you're doing a lot of running, you want to know how many calories do I have to replace if I'm going on these long runs, so that I can I can prevent, muscle catabolism and, weight loss, because that might not be your goal. So you get all your fueling for all your zones. Then as I move down further, Of course, you're going to get your VO2 peak. That's your Vo2max right here for this particular day. His was 45 milliliters per minute per kilogram. Your heart rate max, as you saw in the other report, and some aerobic threshold numbers here, your VT1 and VT2. Now, that being said, you can see how more robust this report is, and also how much more actionable it is versus just getting a bunch of data. But what I also want to show you is the other thing that we do here beyond just handing you a report. So if I go back up here, you can see, let me be careful not to go too far. Okay, so you can see here that this individual, remember, had really good scores for everything. So, you know, at some places they might hand you this report and say, hey, everything's excellent, you've got great VO2 max, just keep training hard, and, you know, if you want to improve it, do some more zone 4 and zone 5 training. It's been great to meet you, and that you're out the door with this great report. What we do is we do 2 tiers of analysis along with giving you this robust report. I have an assistant that goes through the entire report with you once you've looked it over to make sure you understand everything that's on the report. In the meantime, I actually dig through the gas analysis graphs to see if there are things that I can find that may not be highlighted, let's say, on this report. Because remember, the report is plugging in data into an algorithm, and, you know, you might be in a situation where, compared to average, like this individual, you're doing great. But some of you want to know, hey, that's fine that I'm you know, above average. I want to be better. So is there anything I can do to improve and just be the best that I can be versus just above average? And just looking at this report doesn't really tell you where your areas are that could make the most improvement. So I dig into the actual graphs, which I'm going to show you here. And here's the graph for today, that test. And what I wanted to show you, this individual, again, I told you I did spirometry on this individual. And this individual, when I did a spirometry test, had great lungs. So great volume. He was able to hold, I think, 5.5 liters of air in his lungs. And within a second, he was able to get out, 4 liters and change out of his lungs. So, just based on that, when he's exercising, I would expect to see him using about 4 liters, at least when he's getting into his zone 4 and zone 5, using that capacity that he has. But if you see here, I have here the warm-up area. Here in the red is the minute-by-minute increase in speed on the treadmill, and then here's where the individual stopped. And let me just bring up the heart rate here so you can just kind of have a better idea what's going on. So here's the person's heart rate during the warm-up, and then you can see here it's steadily climbing until they had to quit, and this blue area is their recovery. Okay, but what I noticed, which jumped out at me immediately, as you can see here, during the warm-up, they got up to almost 4 liters, close to, what they were able to demonstrate during their spirometry test in terms of lung strength, getting out in 1 second. But then it dropped suddenly, and you can see here they're at 2.5 liters. And then what's interesting is that as the treadmill went faster and faster, and I'm going to pull up the treadmill speed here. So there's the treadmill speed here. Here we're at 3.7 miles an hour. We ended up at 7. But you notice as the treadmill speed is increasing, they're not really breathing any deeper and using larger volumes, which is very, interesting. But there's something keeping them from increasing their lung volumes like the average person would do as the energy requirements are increasing. They're going to breathe faster and they're going to breathe more deeply to move more air and get more oxygen. But he's not doing that. So let me get rid of the heart rate here. I'm sorry, the speed. So I have another thing I pull up and show people in terms of analyzing as they're breathing faster and as things are getting harder, are they getting more oxygen? And that's where things got really interesting for this individual. So when I pull up the amount of oxygen they're getting per breath, okay, right here, you can see that right about here, where are they? They're at 89. And then even though they're breathing faster, here's their breathing frequency. Let me pull that up. So even though they're breathing faster, you see that pink line going up? They're not getting more oxygen. They're actually, it's dropping slowly, slowly, slowly. So my point to this is something I'm going to highlight to this individual so that they can work on this and coordinate their breathing so that when they're exercising and they are taking their breathing frequency up, which he's doing fine with that, he also learns how to take his volumes up because he can clearly move up to almost 4 liters per breath. He's doing it here. And notice how it pops up once he's not exercising. So during exercise, though, he's not taking advantage of his lung volume. So he's going to be assigned some respiratory training so that he can learn how to breathe differently, get more oxygen, and ultimately increase his performance. Even though he's got a great Vo2max already, we're going to take that up even higher. And let him, again, be the best that he can be. So I kind of just wanted to give you an insight into why we charge a little more and let you as a consumer look at, what you're spending, what you're going to get for your expenditure, and how useful is it, and how is it going to help you get to your goals, whatever they may be. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, and take care.